In this video, we are going to learn how to convert decimals into fractions. So let's start off with 0.8. Now I want to convert this into a fraction. So if you remember, this is over 1. Now we want to make it so there is no decimal place on top. So we're just going to multiply by tens, hundreds, thousands until there's no decimal places. So let's first multiply by 10. So if I multiply the top by 10, I must multiply the bottom by 10 as well, from what we learned in our fractions. This is going to give me 8 over 10. Okay? And because that still follows with our rates and ratios. So if I multiply this by 10, I must multiply this by 10. Now, we want to simplify this fraction. So how do I simplify that fraction? Well, let's look at 8. 8 can be broken down, if you remember our prime factorizations, into 2 times 4. 2 is prime. We could break down 4 into 2 times 2. Now let's look at 10. 10 can be broken down to 2 times 5. Both 2 and 5 are prime, because they can only be divided by 1 in themselves. So in other words, we have 8 over 10 is equal to 2 times 2 times 2 divided by 2 times 5. Which means 2 divided by 2 is 1. So then I'm left with 2 times 2 is 4 divided by 5. 4 over 5 is my answer. Let's try another one. Let's try 0.35. So once again, let's start off by putting it over 1. Okay? I want to make this equal to some sort of fraction. Now let's get rid of my decimal places. If I multiply everything by 10, that only moves the decimal place once, so I end up getting 3.5 out of 10. So let's multiply everything by 10 again. Move the decimal place one more time. That's going to give me 35 over 100. What I could have done is I could skip this step and multiply by 100 and multiply the top by 100. And there we would get rid of our decimal. Now we have this here. We have to simplify that fraction. So in order to simplify the fraction, let's once again break it down to its prime factors. So 35 is 7 times 5. Both 7 and 5 are prime. 100 is 10 times 10, which is 2 times 5, 2 times 5. Circle my primes. So let's write this out here. So we have 35 over 100, and we're saying that's equal to 7 times 5 all over 2 times 5 times 2 times 5. Now I look at this here, we have 5 and 5 divided by each other gives me 1. So what we left on top is we have 7, and on the bottom we have 2 times 2, which is 4, times 5 is 20. So 7 over 20 is my answer. Let's try one last one. We're going to try 1.6. Right? So once again, let's make it over 1. I want to multiply by 10 to get rid of my decimals. So let's see, we're going to get 16 over 10. I look at that. That's right. Okay, this is times by 10. Look at this, times by 10. We're doing the same thing. Now, we have my fraction. Now let's try and simplify this fraction. So I look at this here. This is the equivalent as 1 and 6/10. Now let's look at 6 and let's look at 10. 6 can be 2 times 3. 10 is 2 times 5. So that's 1, and we're going to have 2 times 3 over 2 times 5. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I'm left with 1 3/5 as my answer. So I know 1.6 is equal to 1 3/5. And that's how we convert decimals into fractions. So let's go over all my rules one more time. So let's say I have 0.25. Step 1 is we're going to put my decimal over 1. Step 2 is we're going to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 10 until we get a whole number on our numerator. So let's multiply by 10. So my first time I'm going to get 2.5 over 10. Remember, every time we multiply by 10, we move the decimal over once. Let's multiply by 10 again. I'm going to get 25 over 10, over 100. Now we have only a whole number as my numerator. Next, what we're going to do is prime factor both my numerator and denominator. So step 2 is prime factor both my numerator and denominator. That's going to give me 5 times 5 all over 2 times 5 times 2 times 5. Step 4 is we're going to divide our common factors. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, 5 divided by 5 is 1. And then we're just going to write what's left. So we could put a 1 on top, and we're going to have 2 times 2. And then is multiply my remaining factors together. So I'm going to have 1 all over 4.